Johnson, Nicole Johnson, let's go. Nicole Johnson, Nicole Johnson, Nicole Johnson, here we go.
Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Wealthy Women Lifestyle. And I am excited to be here with you guys. I am the Nicole Johnson, founder of Wealthy Women Lifestyle, where I teach women to define and achieve their goal of financial freedom so that they can live life on their own terms. I have a special project that I've been working on, and I brought some very exciting people here with me today to talk about how we're going to move forward with it. So coming up in August, from August 7th to August 9th, I'm hosting the Prosperity Summit virtual fair. And we're going to talk about all kinds of topics, whether it's money, health, wellness, love, all of those things. But today I am hosting a very special panel about men and mental health and why they won't get therapy. Okay. And so I don't fit in the male category, but I brought some very special men to come on this platform with me today so that we can get some dialogue going. Because ladies, listen, it's nothing worse than being in a relationship and you don't know who you're really in a relationship with, or you're watching your son, family member, or loved one go through mental health challenges and you don't know how to, one, recognize the symptoms, and you don't know what to do if you do see the symptoms. So give me a moment while I add our guests to the stage. Hey, Jay, Ernest, Curtis, and Brian. Listen, if I start introducing them and giving all their background information, we'll be here till next week. So I'm going to allow these amazing men to come up and tell you a little bit about themselves, and then we're going to get right into this topic. And listen, don't go anywhere. If you haven't already got your drink, pen, and pencil, hurry up and come on back. And then don't move. Tell people you are busy. You are in educational school today, because we really need to get this message. So in no particular order, let's start with Brian. Brian, introduce yourself to the people, please.
Brian K. McNeill, thank you, Nicole, for having me in here today, especially with this topic. I think what's relevant to the topic today, not only am I a father and a husband, but I'm also a father who has raised sets of children that I didn't raise day to day in the house full time. I was married once. We had 2 children. And when they were toddlers, like 4 and 5, that marriage ended. And I became a every other weekend dad for them. And then I got married again, and she had 2 children when I met them. Okay. And then we had another child. So we had a blended family. And then I got married again. And so I have 6 children. And I think that's going to be relevant because the guilt that we have for not being there from day to day is something that still haunts me. And I think we're going to have a good time talking about it. But I am the sales confidence coach, a multi-time author, but I'm also a real live, breathing the Black man with a perspective that I want to flesh out today.
Oh, thank you so much for that, Brian. Thank you for sharing. Next, we'll go to Curtis.
Hi, Nicole. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited about having this conversation. We've talked about it. And as I said, when you first met me, you just really drilled me. So to make sure that I met the requirements, but nevertheless, so glad to be here. As Nicole said, I am a men's life coach. I work with men and specialize in transformational leadership for men. So super excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'll have Ernest come up, and let me tell you guys, if he don't have some candy corn in the next few minutes, we might have to excuse him from the platform. Now we might have to excuse. I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Ernest. Tell them all about you.
Thank you, Miss Nicole Johnson, for that lovely candy corn introduction. My name is Ernest James Usher III. I am the CEO of Usher's Digital Agency, a marketing online company, and I'm a civilian contractor, a DoD civilian contractor stationed here in the Mildenhall Royal Air Force in England. I've been here for about 3.5, 4 years, and I bounced all the way around the world to 18 different countries. I just got back from a deployment in January from Kuwait for 9 months. So my perspective that I would like to talk about with mental health is as Mr. McNeill stated, being a Black man, but being a Black man associated with the military, and how the military personnel, especially African Americans, go through dealing with mental health, and how the disparities are if it's mental health or if we're just considered the toxicity of being lazy. The thing that I battle with as well, being a 19, 20-year-old minister as well in the ministry, all those things correlate. So I'm just excited to be here and be a part of this discussion with each one of you.
Well, thank you so much for your service. We do appreciate it. And yes, Ernest and I are going to be the ones that get, we're going to keep the laughter going. We're going to keep the laughter going throughout this process. And last but certainly not least, Jay Mosely, come on up and tell the people about yourself.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Jay Mosely. Thank you, Nicole, for having me on this platform. I greatly appreciate it. I'm the creator of the You Good Bro brand, mental health advocate. I help overlooked men better take care of themselves so they can be better for the others around them, and also dive into men's self-care as well.
Ooh, I love it. I love it. I love it. And I met Jay at a platform just yesterday. And what I loved about him was he was wearing a shirt saying, "Bro, you good?" I was like, "Oh, sir, hello, what do you do?" And so I grilled him just as bad as I grilled you too. So you are not alone in that. You are not alone. And if I remember correctly, Jay, were you in the military as well?
No, I wasn't in the military. Actually, I was on a TV show geared toward military vets that my friend just launched called Exit Ready, for military's transitioning out of the service to better assist in entrepreneurship, mental health, and finding high-paying careers as well.
Okay, so I heard military. It's stuck.
Yeah.
And so I want to thank you guys for spending some time with me today. And so I'm going to jump right into it. And the first question, since I polled my community, I pulled some questions of my own from my own experiences. And so what I want to make sure is that I touch on quite a few things. And Brian, were you military?
Yes, ma'am. I sure was. 8 years active military experience. 82nd Airborne, 35 Jump Chomp. Yes.
Come on now. Come on. Well, thank you so much for your service. I truly, truly appreciate it. It takes a lot of toll on our families because you're not just the one going away to the military. Our families are impacted. And so we thank you for that. So let's start with the first question. And we're just going to do a round robin. Okay. What does it mean to be a strong Black man, and how has the definition impacted your mental health? I'll start with Jay.
That's a loaded question.
I know. And you got a load for it. I'm ready.
Well, my definition of being a strong Black man is being a man that's healed, a man that has went through his wounds and adversities and found enough to say that, hey, I need to go through a particular part of my journey where I heal from my childhood trauma so I can be better and whole for my family, so I can be the husband that my wife needs, so I can be the father that my kids need, so I can be the leader that my community needs. So that would be my definition of a strong Black man, someone who's went through that particular journey and found that emotional intelligence enough to understand that, hey, I need to be better so I can be better for the ones around me.
Oh, absolutely. That's wonderful. Ernest?
The definition of a strong Black man for me, and I'm glad Mosely put it that way, because I'm going to speak from the perspective of all my African American Black friends that I have that are my age group. They believe that it means everything bounces off of you. Nothing can touch you. Nothing can hit you. You are the best one. You're the one in your family that takes on all the pain, the heartache, and everything. And emotionally, you have to be strong enough to take care of everybody. Is that wrong? Yes. But that's what it means to all of them. Because when I have conversations with them, when we get to the root of pain and get to the root of issues, they've never talked about it with anybody. So they think they're supposed to take on the world and nobody can see their emotions. They're supposed to be Superman. And that's them. Is it hurtful? Yes. Do they need Mosey's definition? Absolutely. But this is where they're stuck at right now. And so I'm going to go with them, which is Superman.
Okay. All right. And Curtis?
Well, first, before I answer, wasn't there a second part to that question?
Yes. How has that definition impacted your mental health?
Okay, can we go back to Jay and have Jay answer that
Yeah.
second part?
Curtis gonna run the platform because it is important to
Yeah, I
know
want to hear their answers. I just want
so that definition is one thing, but how did it impact your mental health?
I guess my answer was I guess both questions was tied up into my answer. Understanding that I needed to heal. I gave a little bit of my story. Back in 2018, I had a major accident, and I was, I fell through a roof and had, broke some ribs, collarbone, punctured lung, concussion. Like I was really in a bad space, and I was depressed for a long period of time. And after feeling like that, I went to therapy, and I became better because I was able during that time to heal through trauma, to heal through depression, to heal through the things that I should have let go of back then, but still was kind of holding on to. So to answer that, I mean, to round about that was the answer to both questions. Was I went back in the journey and still am. It's still it's not. It's continual thing.
So, in Ernest, would you add to that?
Yeah, for me, because we end up being Superman, for me and for a lot of my friends, failure was our kryptonite. So anytime we failed at something, we felt like we failed at life, that we weren't good enough to go to the next moment, to the next task. What helped me, however, was exactly what Mosely said. I finally sought out therapy, something that I was told, especially being a pastor's child, you don't need that. You just need God. And because that was the narrative that was driven home for all those years, I didn't know therapy was something that I needed. I just thought God would do it. And if he doesn't do it, then I'm just going through until he does. And I was in the story of Job was pushed into my mind so much to where I'm like, well, I guess I'm just Job, but it's really not supposed to be that way. He was a unique circumstance. He was not the measuring stick for when men need to actually seek someone. So that's what I learned from understanding I'm not Superman. When I talk to someone, I realize that even though I'm just human, failure is normal, but it's how you bounce back from failure is what's going to help you to your next moment. And so that's what I got from that.
Thank you. Curtis?
All right. The first question was our definition of a strong Black man. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. For me, my definition of a strong Black man is being able to be vulnerable. And oftentimes, and probably I would imagine the other two gentlemen, and most of us on the panel here, that can have been a challenge for a lot of us. But you learn that vulnerability is absolutely essential to getting to the other side of strength. Because vulnerability, or when you're not vulnerable, it can have you sitting in that space where you're just all kinds of different thoughts are going in your mind and just kind of just locked in that limited space, so to speak. So for me, learning that I needed to be vulnerable and it was okay being vulnerable. I needed to address not only the vulnerability piece of it, but I needed to address the feelings, why I was feeling the way I was feeling, and just the thoughts, and just they were just kind of trying to overtake me, or at least at times overtook me at times. So that was something I learned in regards to what would become my definition of a strong Black man.
Okay.
Now, what was the other part?
The other half is how has that definition impacted your mental health?
Wow, that is a great question too. I think for me, having to eventually understand first that being vulnerable was okay, but how it impacted me was that without the vulnerability, there was no structure. And because there was no structure, I found myself all over the place. and trying to grab footing as much as possible with, it was women at times trying to grab footing. It was gambling, trying to grab footing. It was drinking. It was partying. All those things for me was a place at a time in my life where I was trying to make sense of what I was going through, but it was essentially me trying to grab some footing or some leverage to deal with what I was dealing with, and put it in a proper perspective. And obviously that's not the right perspective, but that's where I was at a time in my life. And so at some point for me, it was just again, just trying to grab hold of anything that would give me some leverage and put me in a different place.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. And Brian, what does it mean to be a strong Black man, and how has that definition impacted your mental health?
Probably one of the most harmful phrases. Be a strong Black man, or be a man in general. Those phrases, what they are basically is traps, to make you act like what you might perceive or might have thought of or might have saw as what a strong Black man would look like, without fully understanding everything that made him or what he had to overcome. It's a harmful phrase. Being the best version of yourself, I think, is much more healthy, or doing the best you can based upon what you have and the circle around you, what you can do, or targeting and going for the best of whatever you have or around you. Build the best family, build the best loving relationships, build the best finance, build the best body. But just a term, I've learned to never tell a child, be a man about it. And I've learned to watch that statement about being a strong Black man. I will tell you, though, since 2013, so now for 13 years now, I've been hosting a men's group called Male Empowerment Networks. And what I find is, and the moniker is Male Empowerment Networks, because men need men, and Superman is a myth, and men tend to cry in the dark. And what I've learned is, over the years, is men have common fears, things that are almost universal from man to man to man, things that they worry about, are a lot of commonality in it. So learning how to deal with these inevitabilities, the fear of their own woman, or the fear, like how Ernest put it, our kryptonite as men is failing. It cripples us a lot of times. If we go for something and miss the mark, it can be crippling. Or if we get fired and our woman exacerbates it, it really can be crippling. I can't believe you lost another job. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? But he tells her less and less and less, until he tells her nothing, because he has to be a strong Black man. And a lot of times that equates to not talking, equaling not talking. So I really want to shoot that phrase down if I can.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. And just listening to what you all have shared about the definition of a strong Black man, it leads me to think about the things that we as women are taught to look for in the strong Black man. And a lot of it is facade. It's the man who has it all together. But what we don't realize coming up is that it is just that. It's the facade. And so before I go a little further into that, I want to address something about, I want to ask, and this, what I'll do is for this question, jump right on in, okay? What messages did you receive growing up about what it means to be a man? How did those messages influence your willingness or unwillingness to seek therapy?
I want to jump right into that, because Mr. Brooks brought up a point that I loved. It was vulnerability. I was going to circle back to that anyway, because that was the one for me. Growing up, I only saw my dad treat my mom, of course, with respect. But I think the worst thing they could do is, when they went behind closed doors and had disagreements, not tell me when I was of age to understand what they were about. And so because of that, I always thought that there should never be arguments. So when I got married, guess what I didn't do? I didn't go through disagreements or arguments. I thought it was wrong. But that was horrible because I became this stone cold person that didn't show emotion when an emotion was to a man is supposed to be a norm. Men have emotions.
Yes.
But to be vulnerable and show your emotions is huge because you have to trust the person in front of you to say, I'm going to be vulnerable with you and protect you with my emotions to where you won't use it against me or make me feel like Mr. Bryan said, less of a man. Now I'm stupid. Now I'm dumb. Now I'm all these things that we think a man shouldn't be, but a man has to be in order to be stronger. He must be weak somewhere. You can't have a strong man without him being weak to become strong.
That's right.
So I want to say that's my answer to that, using what Mr. Brooks said with vulnerability. I think that's the challenge that we have in the military too, with getting men to be vulnerable to leadership, to be able to go to mental health or go to those places, the chaplain, to where they can expose that vulnerability and say, this is what's bothering me without being said. Go back to your normal job. Go back to your bears. Go back to your rank. That's stupid. That's dumb. Don't come to me with that. We have a mission to do. Complete the mission. And yet what we don't understand is not only this affecting this man, he can't complete the mission. You can't. And I tell people this in church all the time now. You can't expect me to understand the scripture if my mind is clouded with what's going on with me. I can't understand what I'm reading. I need someone to put her in my mind. Yes, exactly, Brian. Exactly. So I can understand what I'm reading. It's the same with the mission. And then that mission goes into now he goes home or she goes home and they're not able to communicate with their spouse, communicate with their kids because mentally they can't figure out what's wrong because they have nobody to be vulnerable with to help them figure out what's wrong. So stand strong, be a soldier, put your rank up here, salute, and go for it. But yet, I can't talk to anybody about what I got going on. So you expect me to work with missiles, aircraft,
come on,
tanks, and you expect me to protect the United States of America, but I can't even be honest with myself.
You can't even think straight. You can't focus. Your emotions are all over the place. God didn't give emotions to women and not men. That didn't happen. He gave us all emotions, right? And men are taught to hold it in.
Yeah.
And you know what happens when you hold it in? At some point you do what?
Pressure bust pipes. Okay. So go ahead, Jay.
Come on, Brian. Pressure bust.
I hear Jay trying to get in. So I got something to say too, but go on, bro.
Yeah, mine was short, bro. It was just like what Ernest was talking about, man. We talk to man up versus open up. You know what I'm saying? So when life hits us hard, we shut down instead of speaking up. It's like I said yesterday, as a youth, they train us to be silent, but when we become men, they beg us to speak. It's that whole concept of not understanding that we are men, we have emotions, if you want to call them emotions, but we're not taught how to display them. We're not taught how to convey our feelings or be effective communicators or be emotionally intelligent. Because from youth, it's big boys don't cry. And instead of opening up. So those are the terms that I heard as a youth growing up that kind of strayed us away from, going to therapy because we know what happens in this house stays in this house. We ain't going to tell the strangers our business.
See, that's the point. This is a major problem because it's a problem of education. You're going to have to teach men that it's okay. And I don't know how to do that swiftly, but I think it has to happen. But we teach men that it's okay to seek therapy because we don't. We've taught over and over and over again. It's amazing to me. This happens so often that it's almost a proverb that men that have been married for a long time to the same woman don't say anything. They say they don't hardly talk at all. In public, they don't say anything. In church, they don't say anything. They don't say anything around the house. Over time, because they've learned that to just get past this moment, I've got to just shut up. I got to just shut up and let her be. I got to shut up and get past this because if I open my mouth and she comes at me, I can't defend myself verbally. So I'd say men say less. I've heard stand-up comedians joke about that. You've heard stand-up comedians joke about that too. That men that have been married for a long time say nothing. Why not? Because they've learned the penalties of opening their mouth. So what
Yeah.
happens is these men, they live quietly desperate lives. They'll talk junk about her behind her back, but never in her presence. Okay? Never. We're not going to do
So
that.
that's what goes on in the man cave. Is that what goes on in the
That's
man
what
cave?
the man cave is for. That's what the
exactly.
elk lodge is for.
Right,
That's
right.
what the strip club is for.
Mm.
Okay.
Oh,
Because
did you say
Chris Rock says somebody's got to entertain the married men of America, because she's going to feed you, but she's not going to entertain you. Okay, that's not her job. She's not going to do that. So, but I do believe it is almost urgent and a crisis that we encourage men to talk to a professional. Talk to a professional. In my life, I've talked to a professional only, hear this now, even though I know better. I've talked to a professional psychiatrist, psychotherapist sporadically, here and there. A little bit over here and a little bit over there, a little bit this time. And normally when I do, is because I am in so much pain and everything else I've tried ain't working. I'll try that. Okay. And it always helps. But somehow we got to have a major campaign to help men know it's okay to seek help.
Let me. Oh, go ahead. I'll ask my question next. Go ahead.
Obviously, I like the point where you stated like you'll try it here and there. So creating, like you said, it should be something that we create where it's continual. Just like June is Men's Health Month, not just physically, but spiritually, emotionally. So if we're in a weight room, we're working out our muscles and things of that nature. We have to do it on a consistent basis for us to see some type of change.
Right.
So if we're working out that fitness muscle and that spiritual muscle and that mental muscle, instead of doing it sporadically, how would we feel if we did this on a weekly basis or a weekly basis or even on a monthly basis?
Right.
Working out that
Great
mental
point.
muscle.
Wow. I think that's amazing, because I was going to say, Brian, when it just gets to be too much, knowing that you know better, right? You spoke on mentoring a men's group, and it's always the teacher who helps the students. The teacher doesn't always want to go sit and be a student. Okay,
You can learn more than they do, I promise you. But go ahead.
So, as of now, would you position yourself to go to therapy if you needed it?
I'm sorry, Brooks, were you going to answer that? Did you answer that last one? I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm gonna get back to you, but I wanted to circle back to Brian. Would you go?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have access to it as well. Being a veteran, I have access to that right now. It's a funny thing that you just mentioned. Who learns more over a school semester, the teacher or the students? The answer is always the teacher. I facilitate the men's group, but I promise you, of hundreds of men in 13 years, no one has gotten more out of it than the facilitator, because I needed their energies and I needed their whatever they had that I didn't have. None of us have lived long enough to have all the answers. So we feed each other.
Okay. All right. And Curtis, did you want to answer that question? What messages did you receive about what it means to be a man, and how did those messages influence your willingness or unwillingness to seek therapy?
Yeah, for me, I think it was really like most men, don't cry and be a man, and boys don't cry and things of that nature. That was the message that I heard as a kid. A lot growing up for me, I didn't grow up with my biological father. My stepfather came later, but I was old enough to know the difference between who was who, that kind of thing. But as a young boy, I did hear from my mother and my grandmother, that you're a boy, boys don't cry, and that kind of thing. So I think this is the message not only that men give to their sons, but this is a message that women hear, and consequently, I think as far as the influence was just similar to what Ernest was sharing. that you just hold on to it. You don't know where to go with it, and as I would become an adult, learn later. Again, as I mentioned earlier about the vulnerability, I learned that that it was not only for men who didn't understand that it was, or that understand that it was okay for us to share our feelings and things of that nature, but I also learned that women didn't understand us. They wanted something from us, but they didn't know what they wanted. And because they didn't know what they wanted, they couldn't even articulate it.
Right.
And I think ultimately, for us as men, is that there was a major reason why a lot of times we held on to the different things. We didn't share because, one, in a lot of ways, we didn't know how to articulate our feelings. And I get that because a lot of us weren't wired that way. But secondly, to go up against our wives, our spouses, or that significant other, whoever you may have been in a relationship with, to go up against them with their word salad and our lack of being able to articulate it,
Right.
You lost from the beginning. It's and I believe that's why a lot of us as men, because you couldn't out talk them. You could not talk them. There's no way to say, "Oh, slow down. Just let me reason with you." Reason with me. It was that was a difficult place for them to get to, and it was, and at some point for us, it was just overwhelming for us, and because our being that we couldn't articulate it,
Right.
It was now going. Just something that you're trying to put out there. Now it's kind of just being tossed back at you. And now you're having to just fumble this ball and play with it and figure it out yourselves. And there's a lot of frustration in it at some point. And I don't know if I answered your question.
You did. And
got a little excited about that.
That's okay. Because you
straight.
get into another conversation where, so you talked about not only do men not understand, we don't understand.
Yeah.
Because if you grow up with brothers, you're watching them be taught these lessons. Girls go in the kitchen, you cook dinner, you
Right.
clean. Whereas the boys, they take out the trash, they fix the table, they go outside with dad and work in the grass and the yard and the carburetor. You don't mix the two. And when the girl does, dad, I want to help you with the car. Now she's a tomboy, right? And the young man who, you know what, mama, I want to learn how to cook. Boy, you ain't supposed to be in the kitchen. That's girls' work. That's women's work. So we're seeing these things, but then behind closed doors, as I gel with my brother, as he bonds with his sister, I get to see the trauma that mom and dad don't see. Right. So I get to hear the tears he sheds because dad punched him in the chest because he wasn't manning up. He was being too feminine, or he was playing with my doll versus the G.I. Joe. So I get to see that, and now as a woman, I don't want my son. I want my son to behave the way my brother or feel the way my brother did. So I'm going to treat my son the opposite. And now I'm babying him. I'm coddling him a little too much because we don't know what should have happened to our brothers or for our brothers, right? But when it comes to that conversation about y'all can't out talk us, baby, listen. I'm thinking of my friend right now saying, Nicole always gonna tell me, speak with specificity. And when I throw it at him, it always knocks him off the balance, okay? What? I'm intelligent. Don't talk to me like that. Well, boy, keep it up. Let's go. You cannot out-talk us, right? It takes a special care. And if you out-talk us once, it'll never happen again. But even with the Cosby Show, when they were the Bill Cosby's character, the dads, when they were sitting around talking to Sandra's husband, they would say, shh, shh. You got to learn how to be quiet. You got to learn how to sit there and take it. So it was funny that you brought it up that way. And you all aren't the only one who are being taught incorrectly or shown the incorrect images of what it is to support a young man, whether it's our brother, whether it's our son. Okay, so unfortunately we are going through these struggles together. Okay,
there's a reason why we can't win that battle verbally. Okay,
hold your horses now.
Because the trump card is the woman has learned that if push come to shove, she could just cry and she can show emotion, and he doesn't have that ability. He don't have that card in his deck. He can't get into an argument, and when he gets into a frustration place, he just can't start crying. Okay. But a woman can, and he can't defend against that. He said something that moved her to emotion, and she can cry and get away with it. Why she's not correct? Huh?
Why y'all laughing? This ain't funny.
Well, he can't pull the emotional card, or he can't pull you bullying me card. She could pull the crying card, and she could pull the you're bullying me card, or you're bossing me around card. There's a lot of cards that the women have in their deck that the men don't have.
Well, if I can clarify this statement really quick, because I don't want to make it seem like that men are still in that space, because I believe that for the men who are more learned, or the modern man who's able to articulate himself,
more emotionally intelligent man.
Yeah, thank you, Jay, on that one. Yeah, so the brother who is more emotionally intelligent, he's got some firepower now, and he's able to he's got himself together, and so now he can begin put things in the right perspective. That now then will turn that or flip the question onto the woman, his spouse or significant other, and have her thinking rather than coming out of her emotions.
And that's always where the balance is. You always want to try to get to that balance of the emotional part of a woman not being used as a weapon.
Right.
We should not be weaponizing the tears, right? We shouldn't do that. And, just lashing out to the point that our partner shuts down because we're not going to get anywhere. And what we have to pay attention to is the behaviors that we exhibit. What are we teaching our kids? Go ahead, Ernest.
So I also want to acknowledge exactly what Brian and Mr. Curtis were saying, and I'm going to talk from a culture perspective. So traveling all over the world, I want to keep it in perspective of what we're referring to right now. A lot of other cultures on this side, especially as you go far east, they don't participate in any of this. They don't care. The man says, the woman says nothing, and that's it. So even though we have, we're trying to find for the African American man, the reason we're trying to find a place for us in mental health, because we were taken from that in our African countries and placed in a place where we were told we were lazy if we talked back or we said something, we weren't worked hard enough, and we were beaten for all these things. So you pull that together to now through slavery, Jim Crow, and all those things. And now we're trying to find a voice for ourselves. We were told so long that we were all these negative connotations. And then you look at the man now, of course, the black man, and with the father not being as present as he may want to be, the young black man is the least likely adopted. The young black man is the least likely to be adopted by a family. So those kids stay in the foster system for the longest. So as he's growing up, nobody wants him. When he was taken from a place in Africa where everybody wanted him. So he has an identity crisis. Again, saying that to say with the cultures that I've been around, they don't have that identity crisis. Right. India is India, Pakistan is Pakistan, China is China. They've always grown up traditionally together, so they don't have the same mental health crisis. So when you see them dealing with things, it's just one and done. Whether they follow religious belief, or they're the man and they have the last word anyway. That's just the way it is. We don't have that benefit. So everybody on this panel, things that you all are saying, and the people that are watching, I want them to understand it's highly critical. Understand we're not coming from a standpoint of complaining. We are trying to find our identity in a place that left us without an identity.
Yeah.
And it's big for the Black man to get to a place where we can be vulnerable, we can speak up, so we can find out who we really are and pass that identity on to our kids, because we want our kids. We want them around. We want our family around. We want Black men to be proud to be a Black man, but they need us in this stage of our lives to be that. And so for me, even talking about the strong Black man, for me, that's another definition that it comes to, is that in this moment, I just need to be so that the ones after me can be more comfortable being.
Love it. I gotta say, I'm challenged. I'm challenged a little bit with this thought. I love what you said, Brother Ernest. I do, but I'm challenged with a little bit with this thought because I meet with men often. This thought about when you become a higher or more emotionally intelligent man, you can deal with that better. The reason why I'm challenged with that, and I really want help, because if the man tried to flip some of that, expressed his emotion in an argument, for example, look, this is hurting me, then he's subject to, well, you being a wuss now. You need to man up. How dare you try to match my emotion? Okay, you're being a wussy now, and that's what will be reported, and you have to defend that. I promise you. I talk to men dealing with the same thing all the time. Okay, they're very frustrated, even from 75 years old to 17 years old, in the same place, still trying to figure this out. And it's surprising to me. Men in their 60s and 70s have not figured this thing out yet. So that's what
I think that what I may be wrong, but what he's trying to say is that we are like this platform. We are communicating to say that we're not complaining, but we're telling you where we started from. And now we're having a dialogue for you to better understand what we're going through. So therefore, once we have a conversation, don't have to be an argument. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about it. Because I do think, especially if we're talking about a man and a woman's dynamic, if I'm with Miss Nicole and I was like, hey, sweetie, or hey, boo, or hey, babe, wife, this is what's bothering me. Like, if I'm telling her what's bothering me and she come back, you a punk, you soft, that ain't the woman for me, my guy.
Well said, brother. Well said.
If that's the comeback that I get, and I understand that you go through this, if she may be this woman, she may cook clean, this, that, but if you can't be mature enough or emotionally intelligent enough for me to have a conversation, let you know I'm at a place down to where I want to be vulnerable, and you come back with that, nah, my guy, we good.
And I absolutely agree. I think the challenge for me with what Ernest said, I agree that culturally, these things don't happen somewhere else, right? Our ancestors were brought from Africa. They were here. Our men were dehumanized. All of that, I totally agree. However, the flip side goes into another conversation, because when I think of those different cultures where men say, and that's it, as a woman, that's not going to work for me. That might be another conversation for another time. But as a woman, that doesn't speak to where my mindset is, because I have a thought process. I have an opinion. I have the natural desire to be heard and make it a partnership, not you say and that's it. I don't function well like that. And maybe
that's why
that's
why I brought up culturally for that reason, because I wanted to be understood that the struggle that we're having is a Western cultural structure. I talk about this with biblical stuff too all the time with people. I'm like, yeah, but that's not there. That's a Western culture problem you're talking about. So I want to pinpoint that's a more Western culture because we're more democratic. We're taught to have a thought. We're allowed to have a thought. We're allowed to vote. We're allowed to do all these freedoms. So the last thing I can do is tell a woman what you can't do. When these countries, they don't want to think about anything democratic. They're not democratic societies. They're not everybody votes. Everybody has a voice. That's not their way of life. And guess what? They're comfortable, believe it or not, with that way of life because that woman, here's the crazy thing. It's going to blow your mind. I didn't know this. That woman, she likes the fact she does not have to work or have to go have a voice or go out there and do those things that a woman in the United States has to do. She's got to struggle. She's got to struggle. She ain't got to do that.
Ernest, that's not crazy because that's what I was going to come back and say. But if
I'm just
the
saying.
atmosphere was created where I can release all those responsibilities to the right one, maybe I would have that on today. Let's be clear about that. And I'll sidestep this conversation just a wee bit. This time last year, I was sitting with a couple that takes women from singlehood to married. They call it from beta bride. And they talk about what to do to attract what it is you want in a partner. Okay. And one of the lady who leads the group, she said, and her husband chimed in right behind, Nicole, you got to take off that masculinity. I said, I'm sorry, sir. Nothing masculine over here. What are you talking about? Let's redirect this conversation. And do you see all of this?
I see all of this, yes.
I knew this was coming.
And as the conversation went on and the dialogue went on and on a little bit more, then I told him, I said, you know what? Maybe I've been carrying this masculinity so long because I've been a single mom for so long. Maybe I didn't recognize what it felt or looked like to not be masculine. I said, oh, let me go on and get in this class and so I can learn some more about myself. So, Ernest, that cultural difference, if I could put down these bills and know that they will be paid, if I could put down having to make sure the roof is right, the car is working, the gas in the car, and it would all be taken, maybe I would throw it so fast. Okay. They'd be like, what happened to the responsibility? Oh, she threw them away across the world.
Yeah, but you see, that's the point. You're equating, and you would stop doing it. If you didn't have to be responsible, you're equating responsible with being masculine. I don't like that he said, put down some of that masculinity. When you, in your opening statement, you talked about what boys were taught and what girls were taught.
That's right.
You were just now equating, and I believe you're equating taking care of the car, the roof, and the gas and all that stuff as a masculine trait.
Correct.
It's a grown-up's trait. It's just an adult trait.
But I don't want to be the grown-up that has to do it anymore.
But the contrary to that, what Brian
never
is
gets
saying,
to think like that. He never gets to think.
right?
What about
But the
didn't have to do this? Never.
But you know what? There is a lot of truth to what Ernest is sharing, because similar to what Brian has just stated, that's kind of where I was going to go to as well. Is that, you know, which is it that you want for women in general, just across the board? What do you want? Just hold on.
No. Let's be clear.
Hold on.
Circumstances that women are in, it's not because they wanted to be there. It's because they had no choice about their situation. Go ahead, Curtis.
But okay, yeah, I'm gonna put a nail in this one real quick. Okay, because check this out. The interesting thing about it now, as Ernest said earlier, culture is a huge piece on this. Now, much like with just blacks as a whole have come from Africa, been enslaved here in the States and many other countries and things of that nature. So what happened is that the men had to be emasculated first.
That's correct.
They knew what they were doing.
Yes.
They knew exactly what they were doing. So if it were not for the men being emasculated, we would look the same as the other countries. That's
correct.
Absolutely.
So
I agree.
let me finish this thought really quick too. So So what happens now, and I believe it is done purposely. And so for a man who is more put together and tact emotionally, and he understands it, he can then approach the woman from an entirely different angle, because he knows that the system has placed her above the man purposely.
It's true.
Purposely.
It's true.
Because for many other cultures, especially within the black culture, I believe that we're the, and I can't say for the other cultures, but especially for the black cultures, I believe we're the one of the few, or many, I should say, get the mouthing back to from our spouses or significant others. And so here's the reason why, because the woman has been placed here, and it's not, and it's not to blame anyone. This is what the system done.
That's correct.
The system did this purposely. It's not to say, oh, women are this or men are less than it. No, not at all. I think working together. I love what you said, Nicole, earlier about being a partner. Absolutely. I asked my wife, babe, what you think about this? So her opinion is absolutely valuable to me, and I would be a fool to ignore her opinion.
Right.
Seriously. And so I think I'm going to land it in just a second here. I think that it's important for us to understand that there was a system that had created this. It's kind of like a hybrid fruit, such as a lemon or lime, and other fruits and vegetables that are hybrid. They have done something in the lab and created something to this day that we're thinking that corn used to be a real thing, but it's actually not even a real vegetable. But this is what they told us. So I mean, that's just my perspective. I think so. At the end of the day, we will end up fighting against each other as brothers and sisters, and not realizing that the person who threw the stone, they've hit their hand and they're long gone. And they left us with something that has just really ended up ruining our just generations of just ruining our families, one generation after the other. And it just really takes a person to understand what the system has done and why they put the woman here. And again, not picking on the woman, but it was done to emasculate the man, because if the man does not have a job, especially for us as black men, if we don't have a job of taking care of, providing and taking care of our families, we don't know what to do, because this is just how men are wired naturally. And now the woman is in a role, not that there's anything wrong with a woman having a job. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this system has done this purposely to emasculate the man. And if you can take away the man's strength and knowing who he is, gathering his identity, because most of us as men, we gather identity through our provision, being able to take care of our families. And sometimes that's not about money, because, and I can say that personally, because I'm a stay-at-home dad. So did I struggle with the idea that my wife is out there uncovered? Not uncovered, but I mean, she's covered, but she's out there in the element. So she comes home, has some just ridiculously tough days. I've got to console her. I've got to take care of her, rub her feet, talk to her, encourage her. But
and
go ahead.
Go ahead. I want to wrap this up so we can go ahead and take a station break.
Yeah.
And then I want to ask one more thing. But go ahead, Curtis. Bring your pronoun
Yeah,
home.
but my point is that this was done intentionally, and I think that if we are left without recognizing the hand has thrown the rock or the stone, what's theresoever, it leaves us to really just fight against each other. It truly is very sad, but this is what the colonizers have done. It was all the plan, and I think that if we open our eyes and we can heal just from knowing the truth. And again, obviously, there would be a lot of work, but we can heal from this thing.
Excellent. So we have covered men's mental health and masculinity. We have also covered just where the definition of being a man has come from within the Black community and brought it all the way forward to adulthood. So I'm going to ask, just in summary on this point, give a wrap up of what you think this section has been about. And Brian, if you want to touch on a little bit of what Curtis said, as far as, because I do agree, men have been emasculated. I 100% agree with that. I agree that in some parts and at some certain times, women have been placed to continue with that. My question would be, and we can touch on that just briefly, at what point, because there are some men that are raised totally going into their positions in life and they don't have this baggage. At what point do we stop saying what they've done to us and we start making a point where it no longer has a direct impact, and stop using that or allowing that to continue, that cycle to continue? Because at some point the curse has to be broken. Would you agree or disagree? Don't shoot the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just
whenever you're ready. Okay.
I gotta ask the question. So go ahead, Brian, because I can see on your face you had something to say.
The thing Curtis said about how society has started to esteem Black women above Black men. I think he's right, and I agree with what he said. I agree he's right, and there's a reason why, and I do believe it's been done on purpose. Psychic disrepair of slavery years, of buck breaking of the Black man. You know, that's psychic disrepair. 330 years of slavery, 100 years of Jim Crow, and then you had the 70s where it was very difficult, in 80s the greed and all that kind of stuff. Having power as a Black man is still a new phenomenon. Okay, it's a new phenomenon. It's not that we're using it as an excuse or anything like that. Is that we're still learning. We're practically in infancy learning about that Black men have the permission to be vulnerable. Just that thought, the permission to be vulnerable, is still a relatively young, a relatively new ideology. I like the growth, and I see that we will grow into it, but I don't count it as the excuse and breaking of a generation. It's generational curses, but still, even I had this conversation, even freedom of buying, that's new to Black people. Freedom to spend money uptown. That's still a relatively young concept. The freedom to buy anything they want to buy, that's still relatively new. We haven't had that very long. We've had that to buy just in our lifetime. We haven't had generations of this. Okay. So we're still in our infancy in that. I yield.
Okay, thank you, Ernest. And listen, you all let me say, Ernest, is probably almost midnight over there. I might be a little off by an hour or so, but
I'll be fine. And then the energy drink can't fix. I'll be all right. But I do appreciate what everyone has stated. And for me, you know, like I said, dealing with all the cultures and then looking at home, where I'm from, where I live, Georgia, and where I moved, I do agree that the only way that the cycle can be broken is if two things happen collectively. One, those of us that are men that are, and I don't want to use the word doing better, mean we're better than anybody else, that are coming to an understanding of how to take control of our mental health. We lead other young men in that direction by those simple conversations. I remember being deployed, and we had a program over there in the Army called Grit. And one thing about Grit resilience and all of those things that it stood for. A lot of guys didn't go by themselves, so it would have to take someone in their unit, another guy, to go with them. And then they would get the help they needed, because you're in the desert by yourself. And I was in there when Israel and Hamas was doing some crazy stuff. But so that messed up a lot of guys. They had never seen combat before. So taking these young men to these places and encouraging it is always good. And then also caveat, and Nicole, I'm not picking at you when I say this, so you can't take it that way. But when we talked about vulnerability, we need, and this is going to take mental health appointments for the Black woman, to be an available space for the Black man to be vulnerable. Because if we're going to, and I'm not picking at you when I'm saying this, I'm just talking about in general for Black people. If we're going to talk to our spouse and she's going to look at us crazy and look at us funny and give us all those things, then we are going to shut down. So Black women, especially women that are going to watch this, you have to become a vulnerable space. If you become a vulnerable space and create a vulnerable environment, even if you don't know what to say back to the things that he's telling you, you pocket it. Then you come back and talk to him, or you get help on what to say, because you can't fix him. He's being vulnerable. He's not asking you to fix him. He's asking you to listen.
Right.
Amazing.
If you do that, you will then have a complete man. I'm not saying cheating is an excuse. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you have a high probability he ain't going nowhere if he has a woman at home that listens to him.
That's what he wants.
Because that's all a man wants.
He wants to be heard.
Is a woman to listen. That's it. And that's why people say all the time, women want to be loved, but men want to be respected.
Respected. Absolutely.
And I yield.
I love it. I love it. And Jay, you want to add to that?
No, that's a mic drop moment right there.
Sure is.
So I'm going to close it up with this.
Wait, one more point, please.
There one?
One more point.
Go ahead.
We host these men's meetings twice a month. Okay, we started in 2013. And what we learned very quickly was we had to completely close it off where no woman can be heard or seen. What we learned is in these circles of men, the men get vulnerable because there's no women around.
Right.
In a private room, they can get vulnerable when it's just men. They can cry when it's just men. They can yell out in frustration when it's just men. But if one man even had a picture of a woman in the backdrop, it changed the transparency level of the room. We were in my office building in a closed space, men sitting in a circle, and two women walked down the hallway laughing and talking. Women talk loudly, and the men in the circle that had been going along crying and embracing each other, as soon as they heard two women in the hallway laughing, changed the whole room.
Fair.
Transparency level was gone. We had to public. So I love that you're hosting this, Nicole. I do believe firmly that men do need to have a safe space. I don't know if we can do it with a woman present, especially with a good-looking woman present. They can't do that then. They can't look like less than a man in front of a good-looking woman. Oh, no, we can't do that. So men do need men. We do need safe spaces.
I appreciate that. And I decided to have this because I realized that in my own personal space, my own personal growth, I like what Ernest said. There is no excuse for cheating. Cheating is a choice. But I'll add this to it. Your partner can create the atmosphere that causes him to look outside or causes her to look outside. I was just having this conversation with someone. You chose to cheat because I would tell you anytime, don't cheat, leave. You want to be somewhere else, get up and go if that's what you want, if you're not willing to work through it. So you made your choice to step outside of our marriage. or you stepped outside of your relationship. But in hindsight, I could say in my marriage, if I hadn't been doing this, it wouldn't have created this atmosphere. So I don't feel picked on, Ernest. I don't. It's a big girl. It's a big girl who has grown up to claim her own accountability. But back then, you couldn't have told me that. We wouldn't have had been having this conversation. So I do agree that is a situation. Okay. I want this to turn into something, and maybe we can talk about this offline, that we can, because Brian said he hosts these conversations with the men in his group. Did you say twice a month?
Twice a month, yes, ma'am.
Twice a month. And well, maybe we need to host it where we have this type of discussion where you all come and tell us as women who are listening in the audience, catching this on the replay. Maybe we need to do something live where women can actually chime in and ask questions, because we don't always have a safe space to educate ourselves. We go to therapy. We get therapy for us, and we are naturally vulnerable, but we don't always get taught how to create a safe space for the man in our life to be vulnerable. And that is critical to the success of the partnership. So right now, what I want to do is say thank you all for being here for this, and we're going to take a station break because we are just getting started, y'all. We are